Throughout the year, we go through many different seasons. There's cozy sweater season, vacation season. Justine's always talking about something called Aries season.
It's all about me.
And then, of course, we also have tax season. Yes, it is that time of year again, good old tax season. A time of year when accounting firms turn into sweatshops and finance nerds debate the best way to save you one more penny on your taxes. But for everyone else, it's probably that time of year where somebody else does your own taxes for you. But today, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. 1 second, this is a really good secret. Okay, we're alone now. So, the secret is...
Can you pass me a towel?
Okay, I think we're actually finally alone now. So here it is. This is gonna blow your mind. Are you ready? You can do your own taxes. I know. Just take a second to process it. Just breathe. I got you. It's okay. I know. Okay, good. So it turns out that there's this program called SimpleTax that can change your life. Okay, so if you've been doing your taxes this far, then maybe it's not actually mind-blowing. But maybe you've never heard of SimpleTax before. And if you haven't, then this probably will blow your mind. And that's because SimpleTax is a free online platform that you can use to file your own taxes that is just extremely easy to use. The interface is really clean. It's so straightforward that it essentially walks you through exactly what you need to do. There's a questionnaire that you can go through that helps you know what forms you're going to need, and it even optimizes to the point where it's going to run thousands of calculations to let you know if you've done your taxes in the most efficient way possible to get the biggest refund that you can. The whole process might honestly take you like 15 minutes. You'd be pretty surprised. And best of all, it's a pay what you want model. So like I said, it can be free if you want it to be, but I'd encourage you to donate at least some amount of your money, maybe just something like $5, because it is such a great platform that they're running and they're not asking for your money outright. So today I'm going to walk you through a tutorial of using SimpleTax to do your taxes online. Now I chose SimpleTax because I think it is the best platform for the vast majority of Canadians out there. One thing I do want to say first though is that if you do have a complicated tax situation, then it might be a good idea to seek professional help for this. A good CPA or someone like that is going to be able to save you more money than their fees will cost you. But for the vast majority of Canadians, our tax situations are actually really straightforward, and SimpleTax is a perfect tool to use on your own. So let's jump into the tutorial. Now the very first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have all your forms handy. And SimpleTax actually has this really handy checklist that you can use to see what forms you might need. So some of the most common tax slips are things like a T4. That's what you're going to receive from your employer, which breaks down your employment income and all the taxes related to that. Other really common ones could be a T3 if you're invested in a mutual fund outside of a registered account. Also a T5 for investment income, or a T2202A if you're enrolled in school. Those are some of the most common forms that you'll probably receive. And you'll also want to make sure you have all your receipts handy, so things like RRSP contributions, medical expenses, transit passes. You can't claim those anymore, unfortunately, but there is a long list of receipts here that I'm not going to go through just for time's sake, but you can look through those and see if you have any of those so that you can have them handy when you're doing your tax return. So once you have all your forms handy, then you can go ahead and start filling in your tax return. Now today, I'm not going to be filling in my tax return, but I am going to be filling in somebody else's that they've sent me that they'd like me to fill in for them. They go by the name of Walter White. So let's jump on in here. So the very first thing that you'll be prompted to enter is this About You section. And in the About You section, it's just basically filling out some really basic information. So you're going to want to put your name there. And as I've said, I'm doing a man who goes by the name of Walter White today. I also saw there's something, a Heisenberg on the piece of paper. I'm not sure what that is. I'm just going to put in Walter White here. You also want to put in your social insurance number. The one he gave me isn't working for some reason, but we're just going to keep proceeding here. And then you'll enter date of birth, all that kind of basic information. Then you can move down to mailing address, fill out that information, nice and straightforward. And then we have the About Your Residence section, which is, again, really basic. In which province or territory did you live? Put Ontario there. The province did not change. Yes, it's the same. Ontario. No, we did not immigrate in 2019. Moving on to you and your family. Marital status, he is married. We're not going to prepare them together today, but you can do that. And the cool thing is, if you prepare them together, SimpleTax will actually be able to calculate who it will be better to claim certain credits or deductions for to give you the optimal refund that you can get. So that's pretty cool. Marital status did not change. Do you have any dependents? We're going to put no for that now. And the cool thing is, if you're not sure about any of these questions, you can click on the blue word here and it'll let you know what it means if you're not sure. So that's always handy too. Then some miscellaneous questions. I'm just going to fill those in quickly. And next it'll ask you if you want to claim the climate action incentive. Now you can look into that more on your own, but as a default, you're probably going to want to hit yes here so you can receive a refund for that. Similar with the Ontario Trillium benefit, you'll have to look into that to see what that is. In this case, I don't think he's going to be eligible, so I'm going to put no, but you can check if you are. And then we'll move to the CRA account. So if you're registered for a My CRA account, this is actually an awesome place to put it to use, because later on you're going to see that you can kind of auto-fill your return essentially from your My CRA account. And then you'll be asked if you want to save your tax return by signing up for an account. This is probably a good idea if you want to save all your information and then you can review it in future years. But it's totally optional. You don't have to create an account if you don't want to. So now we'll actually get to the part where we actually start doing our taxes. So you have 3 different options with SimpleTax. The easiest one is you can autofill your return essentially by pulling information from your My CRA account. If you have an account, it'll pull things like your T4, RRSP contributions, things like that. Any information that has been submitted to the CRA by your employer, by your investment companies, it'll be able to pull that from your My CRA account, which is awesome. I'm not going to cover that today because I assume that if you can do that, then you'll just be able to do that on your own. I'm going to cover if you actually want to fill out your return yourself manually. So there's 2 ways to do that. If you're not sure where to begin, you can answer a few questions, which is going to help you figure out exactly what you need to enter. And this part is super, super helpful. If you do know exactly what forms you have and what you need to enter, you can also just search for them here. So you can see you have your T4 there, RRSP contributions, medical expenses, stuff like that. You can search for the exact form you need. But I'm going to go ahead and answer a few questions so you can see how this questionnaire walks you through what you need to do. So what slips did you receive? You're going to need to know what tax slips you received. And in this case, I'm just going to say that I've received a T4, which is my employment income. And then in the next set of questions, you'll have a series of questions here that they're going to ask you, which will kind of dictate what forms you get presented later. So Walter was not a post-secondary student. He was not any of these things, so we're just going to move along here. And then the next set of questions here is going to ask you where you might have received other income from. So maybe it's like a small business, a rental property, anything like that. So you'd want to check off which of these applies to you. Now for Walter, he did receive money from a small business. And then other than that, I think that's about it for him. And here it's going to ask you some things that are related to some deductions and credits that you can get. So if you did something like a donation or charitable contribution, which Walter did. Medical expenses, yes, he had some of those. And another one that is really common is student loan interest. Now, Walter didn't have this, but I'm going to check it off anyway for now just to show you. And then we can move along to the next set of questions. And I don't believe any of these apply to him, so we'll move on. If you had investments, did you make any RRSP contributions? Yes, he did. And again, none of these other ones apply to Walter, but if they apply to you, feel free to check them off. And also, if you're not sure about any of these questions here, again, just click them and something will come up that fills you in further. So we'll hit next again. And then some last few questions about less common tax situations. So these are pretty specific things. A lot of them probably aren't going to apply to you, but make sure that you take a look through them anyways, just in case. None of them apply to Walter, so we'll just hit next. And then we'll hit finish. All right, awesome. So first, let's start with the T4. So now SimpleTax has presented us with the T4 slip here. And you'll notice that it's structured in the same way as an actual T4 slip, which makes it very easy to fill out. Because your T4 is going to have boxes like these, and then they'll have a number beside each box, and you'll essentially just take that number and put it right here into SimpleTax. So Walter's employer here says it is A1A Car Wash. And then in box 10, that's where you'll put the province of employment. So if you hover over any of these boxes, it'll also tell you what they are in case you're curious. So we're going to put Ontario here, and we'll skip box 28 because these you only click if you're not eligible for this program basically, and most people are going to not click this. You'll see it on your T4 if it is checked off, but most people are not going to have that check off, so don't worry about that. You want to proceed to box 14, which is your employment income. And in this case, Walter had $50,000 here. The next one is box 16, which is your CPP contributions. He had $2,000 worth. And then in box 18, which is EI premiums, he had $1,000 worth. These are really common boxes that you're probably going to have on your T4 as well. And then we'll move to box 22, which is income tax that was deducted by your employer. So this is income tax that you've been paying on your paychecks throughout the year. So Walter paid $8,000 of this throughout the year in income tax. And if you've been paying attention to this little number down here, your refund, it tells you how much you're either going to owe or be refunded by the government. And as you enter in information, this is going to change throughout your tax return. Box 24 is insurable earnings, it's 50,000 there. 26 is CPP pensionable earnings, another 50,000 there. And that's going to be it for Walter's T4. Now, if you have a box on your T4 that's not showing up here as the available boxes, you can actually manually type in another box that's not showing up there, and you'll be able to enter it on your own manually. And that's it for the T4. So next, let's talk about Walter's RRSP contribution. So the first thing it'll ask you is what your deduction limit is for your RRSP contribution. So you can find this limit either on your MyCRA website, or you can also find it on your last year's notice of assessment. Walter's is $10,000. And he did make a RRSP contribution. And as soon as you hit yes on that, it's going to bring you this drop down here where you will input information about that RRSP contribution. So for RRSP contributions, there's two windows that you can contribute in. You can contribute any time last year, essentially, or you can also have contributed in January 1st to March 2nd, 2020 of this year, and you can still use that contribution against your previous year's income. So in this case, we're going to say that Walter contributed between this window of last year. Description here, you can just put which company your RRSP is with. So we'll just put Quest Trade for Walter. And he contributed the full $10,000 that he was able to. Now, he did not use anything from the lifelong learning plan or the home buyers plan, and he does not have unused contributions from the previous year. And after that, now you can see that the refund has jumped way up to $3,147 because, as we know, if you watched any of my videos on the RRSP contributions reduce your taxable income, which can generate you a tax refund. Next, let's talk about student loans because I think that's a pretty common one for a lot of people watching this. Now, as I said, Walter doesn't personally have any, so I'm just showing this as an example. Now, to find out how much interest you paid on your student loans last year, you're going to have to look at either your online portal or some kind of statement from your student loan that's going to show you the exact amount of interest that you paid last year. And then you can just put a description for your loan, so master's degree loan, and then you'll put the amount of interest here. So let's say you paid $500 of interest on it last year. And again, this is going to bump your refund up some more because if you pay interest on student loans, it can actually save you money on taxes a little bit, which is nice. So make sure if you have student loans to check that and make sure that you're inputting it in your tax return to save a bit of money. All right, now let's move on to the statement of business activities. So if you're somebody who's running something like a side business, a little side hustle, or even if it's something full-time for you where you're running your own little business, but it's not incorporated, so it's not a corporation. So anyone who's a freelancer, self-employed, that type of thing, this is where you will fill out all the information related to taxes for your business. So for Walter, his business is A1A Car Wash. It earned business income. I'm not going to worry about all this information here. I'm just going to move along to the interesting stuff to show you guys. So, Walter's Car Wash. This is a very interesting car wash here because it says here on the forums that it made $10 million last year. $10 million. What kind of car wash has that kind of money? I don't know. This Walter guy sure is an interesting fella. Then we'll move on down to cost of goods sold. So any costs that he incurred to sell his goods or services. I'm assuming he's selling services. It's car wash, right? I mean, what else would he be selling? So here he's reporting some wage costs of $500,000. Geez, he's really nice to his employees. We've got subcontracts of another $500,000. I don't know what he's contracting out here, but wow, okay. Okay, and the next question is, do you have inventory? Walter has a note here that says, no inventory, sold it all. I don't really, I'm just gonna put no inventory. I don't know what kind of inventory he would have at a car wash anyway. I'm not sure what he's, manufacturing or selling. It's a car wash. So that leaves him with a gross profit of $9 million. Wow. Okay, now let's talk about Walter's business expenses that he incurred to earn his revenue. So he has written down here that he has incurred $500,000 of bad debt expense, $250,000 worth of supplies, and $250,000 worth of legal, accounting, and other professional fees. Now, I just wanted to say, as a side note here, this is the strangest car wash I've ever seen. These are some really weird, but you know what? I mean, I can only say so much because his car wash made $8 million at the end of the day. That is just incredible. I've got to get myself a car wash or do whatever this guy's doing because it's clearly working. Okay, next let's talk about donations and gifts. So if you're somebody who has made a donation in the year, well, you can actually put this on your tax return because it's going to give you a little bit of a refund for that. So in Walter's case, he made a donation to a charity, and it was the Cancer Society, and he gave them $10,000, which is that's a pretty generous donation. So Good for you, Walter. So make sure to fill that out if you made a donation in the year. And next we'll move on to medical expenses. So there are eligible medical expenses in Canada that you can put on your tax return. Now these have to be expenses that you paid for out of your own pocket, so they can't have been covered by benefits or anything like that. And you can click here to look and see which expenses exactly are eligible before you put them down. So let's fill this out here. So they're for Walter White, they're for him. Medical expense description is cancer treatment. And the type of expense is regular, and the amount was $10,000. Now you can add any other expenses that you have here, or you can also add people depending on your own situation. But make sure you keep track of these because it's definitely worth putting them on here to save more money on your taxes. And that's pretty much it for Walter, and it might be it for you too. You might have an even simpler tax situation than this, and honestly you probably will. It might just be your T4 and a few other things. Now once you're done and you're confident that you have everything there, you can go to the review section at the bottom and you can click this button, which is going to check your tax return for errors and make sure that it's also optimized so that you can get the most credits and deductions that you possibly can, which is really nice. And then below that, we have a summary, which is going to tell you about your optimizations. It's going to tell you about your amounts. You can even download a spreadsheet, and you can also see what your return looks like on paper. So it provides you all these different options and information that you can get after filling out all your information. And then finally, below that, you can actually submit it directly to the CRA right from the SimpleTax interface. Now, I'm filming this before February 24th, so this is before you can actually submit. It's a little bit too early, but past February 24th, the submit button will be here. And you can go ahead and submit your return directly to the CRA. And there you go. You did it. You can put on your big boy or big girl pants now because you filed your own taxes. Now go out there and march down the street like you mean it.
That guy did his taxes.